This is Dan Ferrisi, editor of Sound and Communications Magazine. Happy to be joined this afternoon by Pat Brown, president of SynAudCon. Thanks so much for joining me, Pat.
And thanks for having me, Dan.
So, several questions. Obviously, everyone's very familiar with SynAudCon. So, we want to get your perspective, first of all, on online training. What would you say is the key to successful online training, successful online learning these days? So many organizations are trying to adapt in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. SynAudCon's been doing it for a decade or more. What are the secrets to doing it right?
Well, I don't know that I have any secrets. I can say that we've tried a lot of different approaches. And, like most people, when we got into this in 2010, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I knew what I was trying to produce, but I originally envisioned just trying to replicate the in-person class in an online format, and it really just didn't work at all. I realized very quickly that it was kind of pointless for people to watch, my lips moving on the screen when I could have animations or graphics or diagrams or what have you. So we did an about face and took a completely different approach. So it's not really a talking head in PowerPoints. It's a lot of animation, a lot of information compacted into a very small amount of time.
SynAudCon is widely considered a gold standard of sorts for audio professionals who seek training. Can you explain a bit about the philosophy that underpins SynAudCon and why it has earned that good reputation as really a gold standard for audio professionals?
Okay, sure. My background is as a contractor. So, when I was learning audio and attending SynAudCon classes at that time run by Don Davis, I was working a job at the same time, and I had to be very, practical in terms of my approach and the use of the time. And I've always structured SynAudCon courses for the working audio person, because the academic part of this can become a thing in and of itself. And I always ask the question, does the contractor really need to know this? And how deep do they need to go into this topic? And, we've got to spread this across a lot of topics, for the general audio contractor. So I take a very practical approach rather than a purely academic approach.
What changes has the pandemic spurred in terms of the areas that you are focusing on in terms of course offerings? Are integrators looking for particular types of information, particular types of courses at this point? Are there skills that people are trying to bone up on?
Well, we did not make a change in our format necessarily in response to the pandemic because, we already had 8 courses and they take a long time to develop. And so we couldn't just immediately start developing content based on the pandemic because we were already up to our eyeballs in content and producing additional content. I'm currently working through the 5th revision of all of our courses. So, we did not have to create new content, but we have constantly updated our current content. We have a lot of guys that are trying to get in there and get, more background on DSP, equalization, a lot of acoustics, people taking our course 300 for acoustics. So I think people are just taking courses that address maybe some of the weak areas that they feel like they have in their knowledge base.
And looking through the website, I have seen that you've made some updates to courses, and I see that there are some new course offerings as well. What kind of development process is SynAudCon doing at this point, whether to give existing courses a refresh or a facelift, or to innovate new courses depending on new needs?
Well, one thing I've been working on for about a year, and this is actually before the pandemic, but the timing was good in that I'm taking our demos from our in-person training, which were always a favorite, of people coming to the training. I was always the guy that had to see the picture. So I do a lot of demos in the classes. So we created a little video studio and I'm shooting these demos and I'm integrating them into the online training. So I can do things with this now that I could never do with in-person classes. Yesterday, I spent 4 hours setting the room up to shoot a 5-minute video. And I could never do that in an online or in an in-person class, but I can do it for an online class. And
Yeah,
then I
that,
can give everybody the best seat in the house to view that. They look at it right on their computer screen. They can listen to what I'm listening to. And in that way, I think it's actually a better format than the in-person training. I
I
really
think
do.
that that's true. That kind of like a 4 hour time investment to set up a 5 minute video is not going to work so well in person, but it can deliver a really outstanding online offering.
That's exactly right.
Going through your website, as I say, I noticed SynAudCon has over 1,700 members, which to me was kind of an eye-popping number. Can you tell some of the benefits of SynAudCon membership and also how one goes about becoming a member?
Sure. Well, for one thing, we keep the membership price very low because we want it to be accessible to everyone. And mainly what you're getting if you join SynAudCon is you're joining a community. And we encourage people that if they do become a member, first they get, our content first, and we're constantly producing content outside of our online training, but they also can join our member forum. And that has we were a listserv back in the 1990s, and we have brought that forward and have a current, modern forum format. We currently have a modern forum interface, and people can ask questions to some of the best in the industry. And I encourage people to join that, even if they don't participate, just be a lurker. Most of the time I just read the questions, I read the responses. I can honestly say that after 25 years, I still learn something every day from that group of people. It's astounding. And so I think that's probably the main benefit, is just being a part of the community.
I think that the commercial AV industry is populated with people who have a real hunger for knowledge, a real hunger for learning. But at the same time, I think there's a certain human nature to be complacent. If you're really strong in something, you specialize in that, you focus on that. I think COVID-19 has made people realize that complacency can be a big problem. They need to look into new areas. They need to attain new skills. Do you feel like the commercial AV industry is adapting as well as and educating itself as well as it could so that it can pivot to new opportunities in 2021 and beyond? Do you feel like there's that current hunger for learning that really is going to bespeak a strong industry moving forward?
Well, I think is always the case. There is certainly with some people. And, that's always been our market, or the people that really want to know how things work. Sometimes we have people that, they have to take our course because maybe their boss made them take the course or what have you. And that's great. But what we really like are people that take the course because they want to know the information, and they're self-starters, and they are preparing themselves for the future. And I think those people are going to do quite well. I think we're all still trying to figure out what the new landscape is. I know we certainly are. And there's a lot of waves right now, but we think that will all settle down, and we'll all eventually have a direction on what the future of our industry is. And it's certainly going to be different than what it was in the past. But I think that those that have a good foundation in their audio fundamentals have a very bright future. I mean, audio is at the forefront now, more so than it ever has been in the past.
Thank you so much for joining me, Pat. Really appreciate your time. This has been Dan Ferrisi, editor of Sound and Communications Magazine. So happy to have been joined today by Pat Brown, president of SynAudCon. Thanks again so much for joining us.
Okay, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much, Dan.